I just feel like every time you're like, "Hi, this is Bo, and this is Emily," I'm like, "Hi,
Well,
I'm here."
well, do you want to do the introduction?
No.
Okay, there you go. Welcome back to and that wait, that's not our podcast name. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts recently, so okay. What is the name of our podcast? Okay, I remember it now.
I love it.
All right. Welcome back to Waking the Fuck Up, a woke podcast. My oh, that was weird. Okay. My name is Ryan and I am here with my co-host Emily.
Hello.
So, as always, yeah, we're here to give you another maybe slightly messy episode of our beautiful podcast here. Emily, how are you today?
I am good. I can't complain.
Can't complain. Well, you were complaining earlier, so I don't know.
I know, but right now I can't complain.
Well, you're talking to me, so not much to complain about.
Yeah, I mean, there's always something to complain about, but can't complain.
Can't complain. Well, that's good. I am officially moved in as of today. Unpacked all my boxes.
Wow.
Yeah. Boxes are either thrown away or I kept a few of them just in case. They're in storage. So the only thing I am missing are couches.
Oh, who needs those?
Who needs? I have a chair. I have a nice sofa chair that is very comfortable, and I am but one person, so
yeah, that's true.
It fits me. My couches are on back order, so that sucks a lot. But hopefully they'll be here sometime. But yeah, I would think you would be very pleasantly surprised by the lack of mess in my house.
Well, that's good, Ryan. We'll see if you can keep it that way.
Yeah, I think my favorite part of my week, genuinely, or generally, I guess, would be bullying you.
Whether is it?
Yeah, like whether it's messaging you like last night with the spring rolls, that made me happy. That gave me some serotonin.
Well, that's good because it pissed me off.
Well, I was like, oh, Emily was trying to make spring rolls. I'll send her this video of how to do it. I didn't think about the shrimp. I was just like, oh, spring rolls, here we go. And then you're like, what? And I was like, just don't put shrimp in it.
So I'm deathly allergic to shrimp. Ryan sent me a video last night because once upon a time, I made spring rolls. And she sent me a video on how to make shrimp spring rolls. I was like, okay, I can't have shrimp, Ryan, and I also know how to make spring rolls because I've made them before. So thank you, but
hers looked better than yours.
Yeah, because she freaking probably spent a whole long time perfecting it for Pinterest, and I'm okay with a little bit of a lopsided spring roll. So it tasted the same. I guarantee you, mine didn't kill anyone. So
I don't think hers killed anyone either.
It could have. It could have. There's lots of people with shrimp allergies.
That's true. All right. Well, I don't have a fun game for this week. I try to find something fun to do in the beginning.
How about put a finger down if you ever had to wear a big t-shirt, oversized t-shirt to a swim party.
Oh yes.
Pool party.
Many times.
There you go. That's our game.
That's our game. Wow, we both won.
We both won. It was a tie. It was a close one.
We both have body image issues.
That's true. Put a finger down if you have body image issues.
Jeez, thanks, church. But yeah, so this is kind of a surprise episode. I've been trying to get Emily to put down her points because we do have a topic for this episode, but information has arisen as of 20 minutes ago, and I text Emily. I was like, "Girl, get on the microphone. I need to speak. I need to speak my truth."
So I dried my tears.
No, I dried my tears too. I was crying too.
We dried our tears and we popped on here.
We really had to pull it together.
Yeah.
Which we're used to doing, you know.
Yeah,
Can't let anyone know you're crying.
No.
So you
fake it
just...
till you make it.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess what we were going to talk about, and still are in a sense, is toxic masculinity and how the church and the patriarchy and how the church assists both of those things. And hold on, I need to breathe for a second. Hold on. I feel like I'm not breathing. But yeah, so just in general for this episode, I'm going to put something in the beginning. Trigger warning for anyone who is a victim, survivor of sexual assault or harassment or anything like that, because we are going to be talking about that in this episode with either personal experiences or experiences of others or experiences we've seen within the church of how the church likes to handle those kind of situations.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So that's what we're gonna kind of talk about. Emily, what are some of your thoughts? You're being quiet.
Oh, I thought you were just gonna go into.
Well, I don't know how to segue directly into it because I feel like it's a big topic, so I'm trying to.
Okay. Well, I think for me, like my experience with patriarchy, which has been the term as far as being relevant to me, has been semi-recent. I mean, within the church growing up, I always heard about how there was kind of a war on manhood, and the feminists are trying, yes, biblical manhood, and the feminists are trying to like dismantle manhood and what it means to be a man, and hate men, and want to destroy everything that is being a man. So that was kind of my take or my understanding of it for a while, only because that was my own, you just know what you know, what you've been taught. And then recently, just understanding the patriarchy and the church and seeing it firsthand, when I realized like a whole lot of stuff is not working. We followed the rules. We stayed within the box that we were presented as a blessed life or a biblical life or godly life. And just seeing the harm that it has done. And I think it's most prevalent to me within the church, although I will say like my experiences are semi-limited just because I did grow up in the church, and I mean grow up well into my early 20s. So I've only had a short time really to experience much more because of my narrow view. But just I've seen the harm and like how it really is. It's not these oddball stories that happen. Like they're very well covered over. How they're handled is within the church. It's hush hush. Like these are not one and only stories, but I happen to have been involved deeply with pretty much every church I've been involved with, to the point that I know it's not one in a million. And these are extreme cases that we're going to be talking about, where I also think we're going to probably touch on more mild subtleties of the results of patriarchy within the church. But patriarchy in general within society and all of that, my take's going to be more about the church. So with Ryan,
speaking of like faking it till we make it, that's definitely what the church almost does to protect its men who do this, that, or the other thing. It's don't talk about it, pretend it never happened, and it'll go away kind of mentality. And it works.
Yes. They have a very, the whole setup of the church, unfortunately, is set up to assist and perpetuate abuse. Unfortunately, in a perfect world, it wouldn't, the ideas of the structure of the church is great. but unfortunately, it's not a perfect world. So the structure of the church actually does well to hide abuse. So
Yeah, for sure. So let's see. Yeah, so Emily's gonna be talking about more of like things she's seen, and I guess I'm gonna be talking about things I've seen and now have heard, and also from personal experiences of myself in the church and these kind of fake it till you make it and it'll go away at the problems. So yeah, we're in for a fun one here. Okay, so I got a very interesting call today, and Emily, I know you already already kind of tossed it at you, the general premise of what happened. Very elegantly, I will say. I literally just kind of threw it at you and was like, "We got to record right now. I'm mad." But so this is probably the last church I went to. Before I wouldn't say I left the faith when I stopped going to this church, but it was the last church that I went to, and then I was like, oh, I'm still Christian. I just don't go to church because I don't know. There's none near me. I don't really catch the vibe. And then after that, then I was like, maybe Christianity isn't for me. So there is a youth pastor. I'm not going to say names or church names or anything, obviously. There is a youth pastor at the church. I knew him very well. And my sister calls me and she goes, hey, do you remember so and so? And I was like, I just kind of like pause for a second and I just go, okay, how many kids did he assault? How many kids did he molest? And she's like, so many. So many. And I was like, yep, not surprised at all. Just from knowing this guy, like he never did anything to me or my sister or anyone I know, but I knew him and I knew him very well and was in close contact with him. A lot of time he was the leader of the youth ministry. He went everywhere. He knew everyone, was everyone's best friend. That kind of classic youth pastor vibe of like trying to appeal to the youth, which I think is a problem when you're 30, 40, trying to appeal to a bunch of preteens, teenagers. So he's just kind of classic, trying to be too cool a guy. And I can sniff out bullshit when I see it. And I kind of knew this guy wasn't all he's cracked up to be. And so I never really, I kept my interactions brief and from afar. I'd stand on opposite sides of the kitchen from him and wouldn't get too close just because I was like, this guy's vibes are off. So I kind of already had an intuitive gut feeling that this was going to happen. And it did. And the really, really fucked up, the whole thing's fucked up, is he chose his victims very well. He chose people who couldn't come out about it to get him in trouble with the law. And then when it did come to light, the church, and I'm very, like, my family used to be very close to the pastor, knew him very well. He knew me since I was born, held me when I was a baby. So the main pastor just kind of simply was like, okay, you have to step down from ministry now, and that's your punishment.
So there is no legal recourse.
Yeah, no, nothing. They didn't take it to any authorities other than the church, which in their eyes is the utmost authority in the land. But yeah, no, he's not going to be arrested. He's not going to be investigated. He's not going to have anything legally done. And his wife isn't, as far as we are aware, his wife isn't even going to leave him. And the important distinction, I guess I wouldn't say it's a distinction, but the difference in this kind of case of like preying upon minors is like the grooming aspect, like a lot of people groom, like the church. I know you can touch on this, of like the church kind of teaches older men how to groom young brides. But that wasn't what was going on here. None of anything that he did was, as far as I am aware and have heard, was consensual. It's more like him cornering people in closets and like small areas where they couldn't get away from him, and then him taking advantage of these young girls. So, and that's fucked up on its own. But the better like fucked up thing is like the church is just like, don't tell anyone, don't say anything. You're going to be stepping down as a pastor because of quote unquote better opportunities that came to you, and we'll deal with it internally in private. And let me say, if I was at that church service where they're like, oh, youth pastor so and so is stepping down, and everyone's like, yay, I'd be like, okay, because he's a pedophile. Is that why? I would have, that's why I don't go to church. I'd cause too much drama for them and they'd kick me out. But
Well, here's what is just like, whenever I hear these stories or I have seen things like this that have happened within the churches I've gone to, it's the crazy thing to me is that should not we as the church be the first to be extremely outraged by abuse of any kind, especially children and women? Should that not be our gut reaction to be outraged and not be like almost having to get a reaction out of people? Like is really what I see. It's like, oh, like, oh, scrambling to like try to act like they care, like somewhat. And then second, then let's bypass this, because basically what they're trying to protect is their system that they've created. And they think that they have to protect this biblical idea of if you do this, this, and this will happen. Well, then it's just proven by these leaders coming out doing this type of stuff. So then to protect the identity of the church, the all of that, that's why they protect abusers, so that they don't have to look bad as a church. And that is what gets me the most. I mean, there's a whole, like, I think we should talk on the systems in place. Obviously we're talking within the church right now with this that happened, that allows this and allows this to be something that does actually happen. Like, these are not stories that are just like, oh, did you hear that? I think this might have happened or that. Like, these are coming out in big churches, it's coming out in media. Small churches, it's easier to cover over, obviously, but it's weird to me that outside of the church are the people that are most outraged. Those are the people that are have the boots on the ground with this kind of stuff. And why is that? Why is that we want to, what we're taught is that the men are the leaders, men are the protectors, men are the ones that are calling the shots, and that's how it's designed. But yet somehow these men are very hush hush about this stuff, and are willing to cover over another man doing this to children. To children,
literal children.
So what are men there for if they're not there to protect women and children? And if we want to talk about equality, and they want to talk about equality in terms of, well, we just have different roles, we're equal, as our core value, but we have different roles. Well, what are your roles, men? Pick and choose. What do you want?
That's what the church really tries to sell, this idea of like into the patriarchy, which perpetuates through the church, of like the men are these strong leaders and they're the ones who teach others and lead the household, and everyone's supposed to just kind of follow them.
Yes.
Follow them where?
Yep.
Into a fucking tiger's den, apparently.
Yes.
And then you're stuck there, and that's where the abuse perpetuates.
Yes.
And it ignores totally like women can be leaders, women can be strong, women are all these things, but also like femininity. Like, I am a strong, independent woman, but I also like and enjoy feeling safe.
Yes.
I enjoy that feeling. And when I look for partners, I look for people who make me feel safe. And I am predominantly attracted to men. So I do kind of fall into that, like, oh, men are, quote unquote, are protectors. But I also do not see it as like, I can't do anything to protect myself. More of a like, someone finally wants to help me.
Yes. Since
I have been on the receiving end of a lot of abuse from the church, from men and otherwise. So it's like, finally I get a break. I get to hand the protective role over to someone else, and I get to not do that right now.
Can I make a distinguishment really quick, because we're kind of talking in very like generalities. So women can also be abusers too, but
oh yeah, for sure,
it's just not what the main, and also that's like the bypassing or like the gaslighting that people like to say is like, well, women can abuse too, or women, whenever you're talking about men or whatever, vice versa, it's like, well, women can do that too. Like, yes, women can, but that's not the consistent issue that we're dealing with. So that's just my disclaimer. However, we are going to talk about men.
Yeah, I don't know the exact statistics, but I've seen it. But it's like, if we have 5 men and 5 women, and this is going to be not correct statistics, but then 3 of those men are going to be abusers. 3 of those 5. And then of those 5 women, 1 will be.
Yes.
And that's obviously not a correct scale at all, but it's just numbers I was pulling out. It's more of it's a pandemic in the men than it is in the women.
Yes. So that's why,
but women definitely can be abusers. I've been abused by women as well.
Yes, and also, I mean, women can't. I will say that I've seen a lot of emotional abuse from women within the church to other women and to men. But right now we're just talking specifically about the patriarchy, but just to like kind of nix that one, because it doesn't override what we're talking about, just because women can do it as well.
And do and are.
Yes. Can we also talk about the response from his wife? Obviously, it's limited information that we do have, but it's more of just like, that's an embodiment of what goes on, and a pretty typical stuff that goes on. But his wife choosing to stay with him, which is, we're going to just assume that's what's happening, since that's what it sounds like. And that's not also abnormal response.
I'm sure they're going to be getting couples counseling from the church.
Okay. Yes.
And the problem is that she is the main pastor's daughter. So we can kind of see the reaction of like, maybe how she's handling it, in how the main pastor is handling it, which is to pretend it never happened.
Yes. And within churches too, mostly, I mean, not only smaller churches, but a lot of smaller churches, there is also a familial aspect to it, because there are a lot of stuff like that too. I mean, that's not even uncommon. I can think of a couple churches that I've attended that, the daughter of the pastor is the worship leader, or the daughter, or
Mhm.
not worship leader, but on the worship team.
Married to.
Yeah, or married to, or
the lead singer of the band.
exactly, or
Yeah.
even know like two pastors that co-pastor and their children are married. So
Yes.
like that's common stuff too. And then that's another aspect of wanting to hide things and bury things over and dealing within instead of doing what is should be done, which is having some accountability for real and safety around for future victims.
Yeah.
But as far as his wife trying to, or not trying, but feeling like she is her best option here is to stay with him and get couples counseling. Obviously, that is based off the idea that divorce is an abomination to God. Um,
And it would be like really bad for the pastor to be divorced.
yes, I mean that's this whole everything is his reputation and all of that stuff. But
his livelihood, his reputation, his image, everything.
yes, but that idea of divorce being taken off the table and the her being gaslit into thinking that the most godly choice is to stick it out. So within biblical context, you are basically so marriage is between a man and a woman. It's ordained by God. It's a covenant with God, and then
in evangelical terms,
yes, and then the only like out that you have as far as divorce for it to still remain biblical is if there's disloyalty or unfaithfulness, like sexually speaking. And so she would be able to biblically step away from her husband. However, there's also this like other aspect that's added to it that's not biblical, but it's like you're considered within the church more godly if you can then stick it out further from that. So that's just like a little sub indoctrination that we get that's not even biblical, but it's like
I feel like a good example of this in pop culture right now is the Duggars.
Yes,
Josh Duggar.
Yes, I was thinking about him too, and that I mean that is like a very, if you look at everything, it's very similar. It's not again, it's not this far out thing that just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened to that. Okay, the one family that is represented as Christian on TV happens to have a a child sexual abuser in their family. Like these systems that are set up by the church lends itself to this stuff. And even that, I mean, she's going to probably, I mean, I would guess if he's willing to sexually assault young children, there's probably not great stuff going on for this wife. I would venture to guess. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but she's going to have her life torn upside down by a man that she chose to marry to under semi false pretext.
Yeah.
And then she's going to be further set in stone in this abusive dynamic, whether it's overtly or covertly abusive to her. Because if your husband is doing that stuff, there's something covert or overt going on. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And then she's going to be gaslit and made to feel guilty, and that this is what God's calling her to do, and all of this stuff further by the church.
That it's her fault.
Oh yes, yes. And that is also if you want to share what the idea within marriage and all that.
Gross. So the idea of like within marriage, it is almost, and this is why people, I believe, within purity culture, they jump into marriage so fast because they want to have sex. Obviously, that's That's not a secret.
It's,
And once
I
you're
do
in there,
believe there's statistics around it too.
oh yeah, no, I don't think that's a big secret. A big like, what? A big shock to anyone.
Yeah.
But and then once you're in this marriage, it's almost indoctrinated into, and they don't. This is going to be both a surprise and not a surprise because I feel like everyone sees it coming and everyone kind of has an idea. But it's just not. It's not talked about openly. But there's indoctrination within the marriage of like, you are a woman. Your duty, and that's the word. It's your job to be ready for any drop of the hat to have sex with your husband anytime.
Yes.
Not if you're in the mood. No, if you're not in the mood, too bad. It's your job. Yeah. Get in the mood.
And this is,
and
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just gonna just kind of expand on that. Like,
yeah.
It's, and this is where like I feel like sex gets such a bad name in the church, because like men are really only caring about, oh, I want my dick to feel good. 30 seconds, boom, pow, done. And then women are like shamed for not wanting to do it because it's not fun. It's just a chore.
Yes.
Sex shouldn't have to be a chore.
There's so much to unpack around that anyways, but like we're going to just barely touch the surface on that, just for the point of our
scrape by.
Yes, but it is. I mean, this is actually something that's written. I screenshotted this off Instagram from a Christian account. It says, as women, it's our job to protect men from lust, the sin of lust. And then as a wife, it's my job to have sex whenever he wants to in order to protect him from that. That is a known
That
thing.
makes me want to gag.
Yes. And again, I mean, even that point, I want to like say 500 things about. There's a whole gamut with that and how that sets up for abuse, quite obvious.
Yeah.
But that alone, just goes back to the programming that this wife has anyways. So there might be a level of guilt there that maybe she didn't do enough, or maybe she
wasn't available,
wasn't enough in general for her husband. Yeah. So this is all the stuff that you were taught in church. And again, I went to 3 or 4 churches. I would say at least probably 4 within my growing up time between 0 years and 22 years, I would say, that I was heavily involved in. Like, I knew the pastor, we'd have him for dinner. The youth pastors, like we were heavily involved. We would clean the churches. Like it wasn't like I was going and attending on Sunday. Like I knew the ins and outs of pretty much everyone there. We always did smaller churches to have that community. So I'm taking from like a random sample. I'm not just like my one church did this and this happened and I'm going to use it as like a broad idea. Like this is stuff that really does go on in this day and age.
Yeah.
And then touching on what you were saying about that you do want men to be like, you do see the value that men provide.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that it is an attack on like the patriarchy, like bringing down the patriarchy. It's not an attack on manhood whatsoever. No. And I don't know if you want to touch on or go into that on what your view on like what manhood or biblical manhood versus like all that stuff. What your take on all of that is. That's kind of broad. I didn't really give you something directed.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, well, where do I start?
Yeah. I'm just gonna throw that one out. Yeah.
Well, and it's like the problem with the church is it tries to paint tries to paint feminism as this evil, dark, satanic, man-hating thing. That's not what it is. Feminism is simply, hey, please stop assaulting us. Hey, I want to walk down the street without getting catcalled. Hey, I don't want to quote unquote service my husband at the drop of a hat. Hey, can you please learn where the clitoris is? That'd be cool. That's a bonus point, honestly. And it's like, we just want to be seen as humans. And in the church, you're not seen as human.
No.
You're seen as property still, technically. Which I see a lot in churches, like in this example we're talking about with the church I used to go to, of like, I'm going to marry the pastor's daughter so I can be a pastor. Or two pastors having their kids being married and then they're going to be pastors. It's this kind of trade of marriage, and particularly women into marriage, so that there's a gain for the man into some kind of power or some kind of status.
Yes. And I think that this is my take on like the biblical take versus the church take. That to me is two different things. It's oftentimes seen as one, that like, oh, the church preaches the Bible. No, the church preaches what the church preaches, and they take verses from the Bible out of context and has you indoctrinated to believe them to mean certain things. There will,
and that's what, real fast, like that's what's funny about the church is like, oh, we're going through the book of John this month. We're going to read through the whole book of John and like deconstruct every bit. They never go through just John. They're like, here, John 3:16, and then we're going to go to Ezekiel 4:10, and then we're going to go flip your Bible all the way back to Genesis. And it's like, okay, we're not going through John. We're cherry picking things that will help your interpretation of this Bible verse, this one Bible verse.
Yes.
You're jumping around to like find, okay, here's this Bible verse of blank. I can't think of any examples. I haven't cracked the Bible in a minute. And then we're going to go find one in the very, very back in the footnotes. Oh, there's something there. And then we're going to go back over to the front, and then we're going to find something in like a one line and like half of a line that supports what I want to say. So,
well, I've even gone to churches that have gone through the Bible. Like there are churches that's their philosophy is going book by book and not leaving anything out. But there's so many ways that there are shortcomings to fully understanding what the Bible intends. Like, I mean, I can't even list them all, but first and foremost, most pastors that have got to church, their churches, are not actually that educated on the historical aspect of the Bible and the fact that it was translated from Hebrew and Greek. And I'm probably even going to butcher stuff as I'm trying to explain it because I'm not even fully educated on it.
This is a doctorate level.
Yes,
like people study years and years and years, learn Hebrew and learn Greek and get their doctorates to be able to begin to understand the Bible. And this is a lifelong education that people have.
Yes. And I even want to say Latin. Like, I don't even know now. I know Hebrew is one. Is it Hebrew and Latin and Greek? Like, is Greek even... I don't even know.
Girl, you asking the wrong bitch. I worship Greek gods. Do you think I know?
I mean, like I'm saying, like, I'm on complete ignorance in this, but what my point in it is that there are core words that, when translated, then we're taking it to mean what our language is every day now. it could be very different. Go talk to someone in Australia. They might speak English. They're going to use words that you're not freaking going to know what they're saying. Because
like in Australia, do you know what they call like handyman or like an electrician?
No.
Sparkies.
Oh.
Isn't that cute?
That is cute.
Yeah. I have a lot of friends who are Australian.
So you say Sparky, and here we're going to think, like, what are you going to think?
A dog.
Yeah. Like, we're going to think something different because of the translation. So you have to know what is it called for a core word anyways? Like, I'm going to...
Oh. Prefix, suffix, main fix.
I'm just gonna plead ignorance today. But the whatever. There's again in translation, things are gonna be lost. Things are gonna be actually have different core meanings. That's what I'm gonna call it today.
Root
word. Thank you. Yes. So that's going to mean different things if you know anything about language. So when that's not looked at, also within the culture that it was written in, which was a long time ago, it's going to mean different. So, like, even when we were talking about the verse about modesty, they're not talking about the one verse that has the word modesty in it in the Bible, which they love. That's the main verse that we're taught. It just has nothing to do with the amount of clothing you have on. Not one thing. It's talking about the uh even the heart behind what you're wearing, and then also not trying to shame, like the context within that is shaming of poor people, and that was something that happened back then. Okay, how are we taking that out? But this is what happened when a pastor from the South that never even learned, he probably graduated high school, and then he's picking up a Bible and reading it for face value in the NIV translation. Like, this is what happens. We don't have a whole lot of education around biblical stuff. Yeah. Some people do.
And like you just said, there's even in English, there's multiple versions.
Yes.
There's the New King James version, the blah blah blah, blah blah blah. There's 20 different versions in English.
And it's easy to be like, oh, this verse isn't really saying it the way that I am intending to use it. So let me look at this other version. Like that, even that, culturally, historically, like these are all things we have to look at when we're really trying to understand the Bible, and then also shoving it down other people's throat when we don't even freaking understand it ourselves. Like, what are we doing here? So that's like one thing that is just the shortcomings of that stuff.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but then when we're looking at it as to say like how women should be and how men should be and all that stuff, I mean,
yeah. And if any listener wants to notice, Emily, I'm going to segue for a second.
Yeah.
We are talking a lot about the men, or the predators, I'll call them, but we aren't talking about the victims, because the church doesn't care about the victims.
No.
And when I was amidst my grand exit, I knew someone who went to church 3 times a week, carried the Bible everywhere he went, was the Bible thumper of all Bible thumpers I knew, and like was waiting till marriage, and then he sexually assaulted me. And the church doesn't care about me, what happened to me. It only cared about him. They did the little prayer circle. They prayed over him to get the demons out or whatever. I didn't pay that much attention. But as a victim of what he had been indoctrinated and his actions and the church, I wasn't even approached by anyone in the church other than like my sister and my friends. But like even then, like most of my friends aren't in the church. Only one of my friends is like a Christian, So, and she's great. But you know, the church didn't care. I never spoke to a pastor, never saw a pastor, never like even went back to church after that. So it's a lot of focus on protecting abusers and ignoring the victims, survivors, the abused, essentially.
100%. And also, what was like the first reaction besides, you know, the people that cared about you? What was your first, like, the reactions from people that you got? Because I remember you telling me, so I don't know if you're gonna pick up on exactly what I'm hinting at.
I don't know what you're trying to hint at exactly. So if you want to tell me what I said.
I just remember you telling me, and this is the stuff that really just
the like other reactions.
Yes, obviously, like you have
obviously I got support and love from like my sisters and my friends and
from your sister and your friends. Like that was like that should be bare minimum. Bare minimum.
Yeah.
Bare minimum.
Yeah. Well, and then I have other family who, when I approached and was like, hey, this was the situation, and they're like, kind of sounds like you're victimizing yourself. Sounds like you're acting like a victim right now. What were you wearing?
Yeah.
Like, what were you doing?
What were you doing?
Why are you acting like, yeah, why were you and why did you put yourself in that situation? Why are you acting like a victim right now? Homie, I am a victim.
Yes. Isn't it also funny how the word victim has been used to be describe someone who is trying to have a pity party for themselves?
Yeah. That's like
what?
Yeah, and it was like they're like, why are you're really dramatic. I think you're just acting like a victim. I'm like, oh, okay.
Or I was victimized, which is what victim means.
Yeah. I did go through an experience that permanently scarred me mentally. And yeah, I think I deserve to be like, I'm maybe a victim.
Yeah, maybe.
Which is why like I keep saying like victim or survivor or whatever, because a lot of people are like, we'll see like someone being like, oh, I'm a victim as like a bad thing, as it's been tarnished.
Yes.
And so that's why I keep saying like victim or survivor. Like I'm both. I was victimized and I survived. So I'm both. I am a victim and a survivor of sexual assault within the church, of someone who is deeply entrenched and, you know, someone who I don't know that he wanted to be a pastor, but he could have been. Might as well have been. He was that guy who, like, if you couldn't get a ride to church but you really wanted to go, he would drive 20 minutes out of his way to pick you up, to take you to church with him, and then drop you back at home and probably buy you lunch or something, which is on the way.
Kind of scary to think about within that context.
But yeah, within knowing who he is as a person now, like that's but like, you know, when you're not looking at that, like
guy,
you're just like, oh, this is a great person.
Yeah,
this is a stand-up dude. Yeah, and people will be like, well, why didn't you like stop it, or why did you like let him do that?
Why is that our first question to people?
It shouldn't be.
Why is it not? Why would he do that?
Yeah.
Why would he do that? He's a man.
He's a man.
Should he not have? Okay, you guys want to be the leaders? Cool. I don't care. You're a good leader. I don't care. You want to be the leaders? You want to call the shots? You want us to stay at home with your children? You want to do this and this and this? Then you should probably have a little bit higher standards for yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's my issue.
No, Emily, you don't understand. Men can't control themselves. Yes. Okay.
This is if you want to grind my gears. Just this is all you have to mention. Low accountability behavior for men. Period. Comma. Whatever. That's not correct. But side note, in the church. Like behavior in general for men in general, but like in the church, that's really gonna get me going. Like I just can't wrap my head around this one. And I was told Ryan this, but there's a video that is out of a man with a Christian platform. He's had a Christian platform for years, has millions of followers on Instagram. He just, I mean, not just, but probably a year ago, has a video apologizing. Okay, it was his apology video or his coming out video about the fact that he has sexually assaulted multiple women. And I could not believe. So there's 20,000 comments, right? I went through as many comments as I possibly could of the 20,000. 90%, again, this is I don't know how many I actually went through. I would say thousands out of 20,000. I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled. 90% of the comments, which again, this is a Christian platform. These are Christians that are on here. I mean,
he's a very big Christian.
I click creator. on these profiles, right? Because I'm like, who is this? And they're like, Jesus for life. I love Jesus. Jesus, like they're Christians.
Saved 420. Yes.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said saved 420. I feel like they do, like, you know, they put their date.
Okay. I thought you were like quoting a Bible verse. I was like, Sage. Like, I don't think Sage is a book in the Bible.
No, saved. Okay, I got it. I couldn't think of a date.
But 90% of these people thought, okay, this was the response. Like literally, I mean, you can go on this and see this, for everyone can see it for themselves. 90% of these people said, it's okay, you're forgiven, we all make mistakes, great, that's what grace is here for, we're all sinners. Oh man, I had to stop myself from going on a field day with the comments back to these people. I was like, we all make mistakes? What kind of mistakes are you making? Are you sexually abusing people?
A mistake is like a one-time, like,
we're talking
I forgot
about a man.
Take the chicken.
Sorry, I'm just gonna talk over you. Don't get him on my raging, okay?
Go for it.
But we're talking about a man who has a Christian platform, makes his money off Christians, right? This is not just a general, I mean, even then, it just doesn't even matter. But just that little extra there. That it sexually assaulted multiple women, not one, not an accident, not a whoopsie. This is multiple, over and over. He has victimized women. Also, I would like to clarify, when someone is apologizing because they're sorry, and when someone is apologizing to save face because he knows his little business is going to go under if he doesn't make these people feel good. You usually would apologize and come out before you're found out. If you're sorry.
Before you're exposed.
Okay. So maybe there's a slight bit of chance that he's sorry. I don't know. But a very real thing would be, hey, I'm going to jeopardize my career, possibly. But it matters more to me the fact that I've been lying to all of you. And I have been tricking you and also severely harming women for probably the rest of their lives. And then that would be more, first of all, that would be a lot more notable. Second of all, he did not once in that video acknowledge the hurt and the harm that he has caused these victims. Okay.
No, they don't like to do that.
It could be, okay, a publicity or a not publicity, but legal matter. It could be a legal matter that maybe he can't disclose, and he's going to do very vague stuff. Yada yada. He talked about himself and his recovery. People were literally applauding him, and I mean other Christians that have huge platforms also on social media, being like, mad respect. Literally, that was one of the comments. I was like, I had a comment. I literally commented. I was like, I disappointed. Like, that's all I want to say. Disappointed in you. I will unfollow you. Yeah. Because no. If anything,
no respect.
If anything, let's watch and see. If anything, because guess what? Forgiveness is, or being sorry is a matter of the heart. Only God can know that one. So you want to try, and that was you can't judge his heart. No, I can't. You can't either. So we don't know. So also though, this is what we're applauding. They're like, that's so big of you to apologize. What? That is bare minimal expectations. Bare minimal.
I barely got an apology. I'm gonna be honest.
And you probably were like, I mean, I don't know. But it's funny how we are getting gaslit into being accepting apologies.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, if I was standing in the same place I was 3 years ago, quite literally 3 years ago, oh, he would not be walking. Just because. You know what? If I'm gonna be a victim, guess what, bitch? I'm about to make you a victim.
And then I'll say sorry.
Oh, sorry, my hand slipped. That's what he told me. Or not, he didn't. Actually, he never told me that. He told that to my sister. He just was like, oops, my hand slipped. I don't know what happened. Yeah, your hand slipped very conveniently and intentionally.
Like my hands never slipped like that.
My hand's about to slip right across your face here. But yeah, and then like after the fact, after the 2 times, because it did happen twice, he came back and was like, what we did was inappropriate. What we did.
What, fool?
You should feel
what?
Yeah. I was like, what? And that even then I hadn't fully, because the thing with victims and such, it usually the first instinct isn't like after it happens, it's like, oh, I was just sexually assaulted. Usually it takes a minute to process and register in your brain that, oh, that's what's happened. Especially in the church, where it's like, again, gaslit out of you to like believe that this is a thing that happens. So he came back, and even at this point I was like, that was weird. That made me uncomfortable. I didn't like that he did that. And then he was like, what we did was
bitch, no.
I was like, and even in my head I was like, what we did? I didn't do anything. I was held down. I was not a willing participant of anything we did. So, but no, his hand slipped, so it's fine, guys.
I just can't. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm just thinking about all the ways that you have been set up for this. He has been set up for this. You have been set up for this. For it to happen easily, and it be hard for you to distinguish if it was okay or what even happened. Yeah. Lack of education around sex, because we can't talk about sex or we might have sex. Okay, let's look at statistics again. Didn't prevent nothing. Okay. What it has prevented though is women being empowered and knowing what is consent and what's not consent. Because again, let's look at what we're expected once we're married is
the very second you're married.
So you're supposed to abstain. Okay, most people rush into marriage, and then you're expected to perform at this
wedding night. Yeah. Wedding night expectations
to your husband's fantasies and likings. But before that, we're not educated on anything. We don't know what consent is. We don't know what's appropriate. We don't have any ownership over our bodies because our bodies are men's. We are responsible for men lusting after us. For our bodies are to be covered. It's not about us. It's not about what we want to wear. It's not about our comfort. It's about men. So our bodies are already on our own. We're not even allowed to tell anyone to not touch us because we tell grandma or grandpa not to touch us. That's so rude.
That's so rude. Why you made your grandma so sad? You made grandpa so upset that he couldn't.
Sorry, I'm responsible for your feelings, grandpa. But I saw you once a blue moon, and I don't freaking know who you are anyway. So
that really hurt my heart that you did that, Emily.
I couldn't care about your heart.
It really hurt my heart.
Okay, grandpa.
That's so gaslighting.
It is. How do we not see this right in front of our faces? Like, this is normal stuff.
That's my heart. I don't care about your heart. I care about my bodily autonomy and me feeling comfortable.
Yes.
Thank you.
But it's just the church is set up for victimization of women. It just is. There's really, if you look at it, and okay, say that the Bible and what you read in the Bible is a laid out version of God's perfect plan for marriage, for our lives, for all that. Okay, if you believe that, which I do believe to a certain extent, that the core of the Bible is that. Then yes, in a perfect world, my husband is going to be loving, kind, will sacrifice himself for me, which is exactly what's written in the scriptures. And then I get to be protected, led, which I really, if I have a really hard time with the word submission. Okay. Everyone knows this about me from a small child. I was like, huh?
I don't know about this shit.
Yeah, like this doesn't make me feel good. Like, not sure about this one. But I have no trouble what's the word? Like defaulting to
if you're competent in what you're doing, I have no problem letting you lead the fucking way. But if you're being an incompetent idiot,
get out of here. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Drive us.
Yes. So that's my point in all of this. Like, whether you're Christian or not Christian, which I guess if you're not Christian, I mean, just understanding that even then, Christianity does have a big impact on society. So we're going to feel it out of the realms of church. Even if you never attended to church in your life, you're going to feel it, and there's still going to be effects, widespread effects. And I mean, we talked about this. I don't know what came first, chicken or egg. I'm not super educated on this part either of if it's the church influence or just all. I would say in all, there's a patriarchy that is there anyways. But this is the.
I think it's like there's patriarchy there, and then the church just takes it and fucking like blows it up like a goddamn balloon.
Well, okay, so this is just understanding like the systems to which we got here. I think is important as opposed. I mean, as in context of all of the harm that we are seeing today. And I think that's like my main point in it. And then this is a quote from Carrie Hilson, which I don't know who she is, but your quote was fire. Carrie.
Shout out to you,
yeah,
girl.
She tweeted it.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Oh no, she's a woman. Okay. Men who provide emotional security and display wise leadership will get the softest, most feminine, relaxed, trusting, guard down, submissive, nurturing version of their woman. So we by nature are made, I do believe this by nature. We are made to be soft. We're made like the feminine essence. And I'm talking about people that are feminine. Like that's their
well, and we're talking there's the feminine energy and the masculine.
We'll talk about it in terms of energy. I mean, I think that's across the board. It's helpful to talk about it for everyone, because there are women that have more masculine energy and there's men that have more feminine energy. But as far as the energies, you naturally, the feminine energy naturally wants to, what's the word? Submit. I hate that word, so I'm trying to avoid it. Surrender. I'll use that word. Okay. Wants to surrender to the masculine energy. That's just what happens. You see the dynamic in almost every single thing. That is what we naturally want to do. So we shouldn't be fighting to be submissive. Like, oh, every day I gotta pray the demons away that I can be submit to my husband. No, if you feel that way, there's something wrong. I mean, maybe it's something that you have to be accountable. You want to take accountability for. But for the most part, I mean, I don't see in my experience, okay, I grew up in the church, right? In my experience, I don't see these men that I'm like, yes, I would want to be submissive and have your babies and trust that you're going to respect me in that and yada yada yada, everything that you should have as a woman.
Yeah, and there's definitely a big distortion to what masculine and what masculine energy is.
Yes.
Because masculine energy isn't big, tough, scary. In actuality, I feel like masculine energy gets mislabeled as feminine by people who fear that kind of part of them, because it isn't this big aggressive thing. Because I have never felt like I wanted to submit to a aggressive, big masculine energy. The masculine energies I am attracted to are not like in your face, you know. And like my current relationship, I wouldn't say he's very feminine at all, but his masculine energy is just calm, protective, and sweet. And that's where I think there's this weird distortion of like what people think masculinity is.
Yes. And I will say, like, wounded feminine is going to be attracted to a wounded masculine. I mean, so attraction isn't also a good scale or measurement if you are, or indicator, if you are have those internal woundings that you have to heal. But the healthy feminine and healthy masculine is what we're talking about. So
there's nothing aggressive about either of the energies in their healthy state.
And it can't, I mean, protection can obviously go towards aggression. But it's like putting the horse before or the cart before the horse. Like, you are trying to act like this is masculine because it's aggressive. Yeah, men go towards aggression faster, which is because they're protectors. I mean, it's the same with dogs. They're going to go towards aggression faster because of their genetics and who they are. Because faster than I don't freaking know, a duck would, because ducks are not predators. So there's a difference. And then that's also why we get men that are more predators, because of their tendency towards aggression easier, but aggression should be within the realm of protecting. And that's what's happened. It's been exploited and turned around, and everything about men that is sacred and beautiful has been exploited into this animal. Like, you guys are now predators. Like, that's what's happened, and it's within our church, and it's so crazy. Like I said, like, just having to tell men on that post that I was talking about that this is not acceptable. Like, they're like, what about forgiveness? Like, okay, just shouldn't you be mad about this first before you jump to forgiveness? Why is forgiveness the first thing you're talking about?
This is where the problem is. You men in the church want to, are told that they're the protectors, right? And then when there's people to be protecting, they're like, well, what about the forgiveness of this random dude? I don't know.
Yes, and you know what that defensiveness is, and I guarantee it is projection on probably the stuff that they do, and they want it to be okay. So they're gonna say, well,
yeah, or guilt for their intrusive
exactly.
thoughts or whatever.
They're like,
yeah.
no, it's fine. So therefore what happens.
If God can forgive him, God will forgive me.
Exactly.
And so they so desperately want God and the forgiveness for this person.
So they will choose low accountability behavior because they're the leaders. And then they're gonna guilt trip us and gaslight us into showing us the scripture that we're supposed to be followers. We're supposed to be silent in the church.
I've never been silent a goddamn day in my life.
I used to be silent or quiet. I used to be known as a quiet person. Not anymore. But yes, so that's all. Like, what is going on here? Like, I don't understand where's the outrage. The natural core of a man should be outraged to hear about a sexual assault on a woman. Also, what I had to say to, it was the same guy,
women and children
yes.
too.
It was the same guy that I commented on, or he commented on my comment. I commented on his comment on someone else's comment. The joys of social media. But he was then to someone else because someone put a simple comment of he's a sexual abuser. Like, as simple as that was, it's obvious that people need to be reminded on there. And he's like, oh, you're a genius, blah blah blah, thanks for seeing the obvious. We're all sinners. And I'm like, sir, would you have the same defensiveness over this man if it was your daughter? And the sad part is that we have to break it down that small for them, as opposed to a woman. This is a woman that this happened to. But then they have to go and like, oh, let me think about this for a second. If it was my daughter.
Well, this also could be rooted in the deep problem of narcissism in the church.
Yes.
Because men do not give a fuck, or people do not give a fuck until it's like something that they see as theirs. So it's like, oh, what if it was your daughter? Oh, suddenly you're gonna care. But even then, me having to say, let me put you into these shoes, you still don't really care.
It's more of a caring, like when it is narcissism. It's a caring about the fact that you were violated because that you own this daughter, not because it's your daughter and the harm and the pain and the.
Not that your daughter is her own person, a woman, and
because he probably she's not that he would sexually assault his daughter or whatever. I won't go that far, but he will probably hurt his daughter the same if it's between him and his daughter. But then he's gonna be so protective over his daughter because that's how it works, and that's what we see also in the church is like, it's oh man, there's just within breaking down even to the families, that family dynamics, like there's so much, and the church systems perpetuate harm.
Just a moment of silence because this is a lot.
It is a lot.
It is
and I think there's more to unravel under each of those points that we made.
Oh yeah, we didn't even get up to the points on my that I've drawn up, so. But
wild.
Yeah. Church, take accountability for your actions. Men, if you're really protectors, let's fucking see it. I feel 1,000 times more comfortable now as a woman and as a person around people who are not religious, men who are not religious. I feel that they are going to protect me more, and they have. Because they don't have this indoctrinated idea of, I don't know, their purpose, I guess. I don't know. They just know how to protect women better than the men in the
feel
church.
like they're more instinctual, where men have been programmed in the church.
Yeah. That's exactly. Yeah. Like I said, like I will never be with a man who is religious. Mostly because I don't think they'd want me personally. But I mean, in my current relationship, they have a faith. In my past relationship, he had a faith. But it wasn't like a conviction so strong that it was their personality trait, I guess. They didn't go to church every Sunday. They didn't do all this song and dance stuff. Yeah. And the past two people I've been with definitely were the people who protected me the best out of anyone I've ever been with who was religious, whether family or otherwise.
That's so frustrating to hear. But I understand, and honestly, I'm not inclined towards people that Christianity is the personality.
Yeah. I feel like that's just a red flag if religion is like a core personality trait.
Yes.
Which I mean, like, I don't know, I'm pagan and that's a big part of who I am, but it's also not.
Do you live and breathe pagan quotes?
I don't. There are no pagan
I'm sure
quotes.
there's quotes about paganism and within paganism. Not like every other thing you tried to read.
As above, so below.
Oh, that's not Christian.
Oh, well, I don't know where that comes from then. Maybe it's paganism. Hold on, I'm looking on my bookshelf. Nope, I mean, there's like, within paganism, there's religions within it, or sects, SECT, within paganism that are very religious as well. And I wouldn't trust any of those people either, where people are like, this is the law, we follow this, and I'm like, it's maybe not. Maybe not. So there's people like that even in paganism, but no one I know, no one I associate with.
I agree.
But if religion is a core, you eat, breathe, shit this religion, I'm just gonna automatically maybe not trust you until proven otherwise.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, closing statements, Emily.
I just hope that listening to this, at least if you are on the Christian path, that you realize something sparked a little bit of, yeah, that's actually not right. And that you continue to explore that and not be gaslit by people that say, if you're doubting your faith, you're doubting God. God shouldn't be doubted.
And there's going to be a million people who are going to tell you that.
Yes. Oh, that'll be the first thing. That's the first thing I was told.
Which isn't that the whole thing of like Christianity is like, when you're on the true path of God, there's going to be 1,001 people who are going to tell you that you're wrong and
yes, because we're fighting against Christian culture, and there's also a difference. This is my one big thing too, is there's a difference between God, spirituality, the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, and the church culture. The church culture sucks. God is love. The church does not equal love. So
no, the church is the opposite of love.
They want to say church equals God. It's not. And so that first, let's look at that. And then second, all the systems set up by the church that is perpetuating and creating and hiding harm. And that's real, and to listen to people. So my big thing too is Christians do not like to listen to things. And if they haven't experienced it, it doesn't exist. So listen to the people that have actually experienced it and really explore that. And also, the church wants to act like they're protecting the Bible, protecting God's word, protecting all of this stuff. You really think God needs protecting? You think your little people are going to protect God? No.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. How weak is your God?
Exactly. He doesn't need protecting. His word is a roaring lion. That's about verse. It's all this stuff is fake. Like all of these little things are fake. They're used for systems of control. Just we have to dismantle this if we want to do God's work. If that's what we want to do, which I do think that I'm called to love, and that is what I want to live by. That's what I want to be known by. So yes, let's look at that. Let's look at how the patriarchy within the church. Let's look at all the stories that we have about
and how the patriarchy is both damaging to women, children, and men.
It's not women against men here. It's women for and men. I mean, there's men that realized it too. For women and men, we're for humanity. We're for the best of people. Men are being cut short just as much. I mean, I wouldn't say just much. You can't even compare those two things, but men are cut short as well within this because
they're reduced down to something so small.
Yes,
and that told that their identity is wrapped up in.
And you're telling don't have feelings, don't have so
you care about sex, you care about you are gonna lust after people. That's just what
you don't have self-control.
You don't have self-control. You can't help
and when
it.
you're told expectations like that, you're going to keep them. Like they're not, unless you step out of that and be like, wait a second. No, but the majority of people are going to hear that and that sounds fine to them. Why would you push past something that is in the easier route when someone's laying it out in front of you? So yeah, all of that stuff is cutting men short. They're living lives that are shallow, that have no depth. They're not even touching a part of themselves, a huge part of themselves, which is their emotions and their feelings. And when we recognize that, that's when we can be open to healing. So we're preventing
which all of that is the emotions, and being like men having emotions would be considered quote unquote feminine, but in actuality that is very masculine and very attractive.
Which is also, so it's
please be in touch with emotions
equal feminine, which equals weak, by the way.
Which is how it's distorted.
That's how it gets distorted. Yes. And yes, men, you're cutting men's relationships. Like, what are we if we don't have relationships? Our relationships with ourselves and others, and God. You're cutting men short with all of that because you're not allowing them to the space without shame and judgment to explore all that and to find who they are, to have thriving relationships that feel really good to them, that work, that are functional and not just paying the bills, coming home and drinking a beer, and then wondering why their wife hates them and doesn't want to have sex with them. Like, you're cutting men short on all of that. So it's not just, I mean, women are being the most harmed because we are now having to be, not now, but we are victims of this. And we have no choice in it, where men, you do have choice over your actions and you have a responsibility to your actions. And we're sitting here having to recover from things that we didn't choose.
The actions of others.
I mean, that
we're becoming responsible of fixing,
and that's not going to ever be fair or okay. But just touching on even that part, that men are suffering from it too. Just they're suffering it in a lot more subtle ways And I think that that's why women have evolved how we have, and men have not so much, because we're not expecting it out of them. So low accountability behavior is what we're kicking out in 2021. Not
At least
okay.
we're hoping to.
One by one household
One by one
at a time.
If one person hears this and takes it away that we're not accepting bullshit anymore,
Yes.
then
No more bullshit.
we did it. That was me. That was us high-fiving.
Oh, yeah.
We did it.
High-fived at random at the right time, I guess. Coincidentally.
Yeah. My closing statements. If you know someone or are someone who was victimized by anyone in the church, man, woman, anyone, I hope you know that you're not alone, even though the church has ignored you and put you aside of like, meh, we'll deal with that later. They never deal with it later. But if you are one of those people, you're not alone. Help is out there. There's people who care about you.
Yes.
They may not be in the church. So don't always default to
and
the
you're
church.
Not sinning to step out of the church to get help.
Yeah, exactly. You're not in the wrong, and I know it feels like you feel guilty for not looking within the church, but the help sometimes isn't there. So find help outside the church. And yeah, I hope on a path of healing, everything, it's not going to be easy, but everything will get better.
Yes.
Like 3 years later, I'm still working on that healing. Like 2 weeks ago, I had problems with it even still. And sometimes I'm like, why? Like, it's been 3 years. Why am I still having these problems? I'm probably going to have these problems for the rest of my life. But on the journey of healing, it just gets easier to deconstruct.
Yep.
And not feel bad. And sometimes people outside the church and people you don't expect are going to help you the most with feeling comfortable with how you're feeling. So don't give up. Keep going. We got this.
Yep. Always reach out. Don't be quiet about it.
Oh yeah, don't be quiet. Scream it from the rooftops. Scream it to God. Scream it to anyone. But
okay.
And sometimes, hey, if it's not one God, it's the next, in my experience. Which some people will disagree with me on there, but hey, I have gotten better help from praying to different gods than I ever got from praying to the Christian God. So religion is not a one size fits all. And I will continue to say that until everyone believes me. But if the Christian God helps you, great. If not, find someone who will. And that's all I have to say. All right. Yeah, well, we know this was a little bit of a heavy, angry episode. But if you enjoy us, if you agree or if you disagree, or if you just want to hear more from us, drop a follow, subscribe here on YouTube. We also have Twitter at WTFU.podcast. And you can follow me, Ryan, on Instagram, which is ryan.m.s. And yeah, follow us, like, subscribe, comment. Emily has been known to dive into comment sections on the social media, so watch out for her.
I will be there answering you.
Oh, well, is there anything you want to plug?
Oh, no.
That's all I was saying, and then you were just
I
dead
didn't-
silence.
I
I was
didn't
like,
hear
okay.
No, I'm good.
Great. You're good. Great. All right, we will be back next time with something, and I will have a game next time, I promise. Or a joke. Actually, I think I'm gonna have a joke. But yep, see everyone next time. Like, subscribe, follow. Bye.